So I hope that you can hear me, people. So welcome back everyone to another episode. Today I would like to dive deep a little bit more in one of the most debated topics in the fitness industry. I would like to talk and discuss with you about the CrossFit and the functional fitness. So some people believe that CrossFit is the greatest fitness revolution of the modern era. Others believe it's very dangerous, very poorly programmed, and creates more injuries than results. But what is the truth here? So what exactly is functional fitness? And in CrossFit industry, is it truly functional? So can athletes benefit from CrossFit training? Can football players, basketball players, MMA athletes and everyday people improve their performance throughout functional fitness? Or is it simply another fitness trend? So today we are going to break down the philosophy, the science here, the practical application, and the real world strengths and weaknesses of CrossFit and the functional fitness as well. So by the end of this episode, I think you will understand what functional fitness actually means, how CrossFit was created, why CrossFit exploded worldwide, and what is the benefit and limitations of CrossFit. So how athletes also can apply this functional training integrity. So what separates the performance training from general fitness. So let's get started. So what is functional fitness in the first place? And that is the first problem with the definition. So what is the functional fitness? That almost nobody can define correctly. You can ask 10 different coaches what functional fitness means, and you will likely receive 10 different answers. Some of them will say it means standing on a possible and doing the proprioception training. Others will say like a functional fitness means using a kettlebells. Some of them will believe like functional means with training movements instead of muscles. So, and on my side, I think the truth is much more simpler than that. So a movement is functional if it improves performance in the activity you are prepared for, and that's it. So function is determined by the goal. And if your goal is sprinting, football, or MMA, it doesn't matter basketball or just a daily life, then functional training looks different for each one of you. So for a powerlifter, for example, a squat is functional movement. For a marathon runner, long distance running is functional. For a mother per se carrying groceries, loaded carries are functional exercise. For a goalkeeper, explosive lateral and bilateral movements are very functional. So function is always in a context, very dependable and different. And this is one of the biggest mistakes people make. And there is no universally functional exercise for everyone. There is only exercises that are functional for specific outcome. And this is what you have to diversify. So the CrossFit was basically founded by a guy named Greg Glassman. So his philosophy was revolutionary at the time. So instead of specializing in one fitness quality, CrossFit aimed to develop all qualities simultaneously. So the Glassman described fitness as a competence, across all the board. So the strength, power, speed, endurance, coordination, agility, balance, accuracy, flexibility, mobility, stamina, you name it. So all across the board. And the goal wasn't to become the strongest. The goal wasn't to become the fastest. So the goal was to become the most enduring athlete. So the goal was to become good in everything practically. So, and this created a new category. So, but in a general physical preparation of an athlete, so CrossFit workouts become very famous because they combine the Olympic lifting, gymnastic exercises, running, rowing, some bodyweight exercises as well, strongman exercises, not to forget. So all together into one training system. And what is the result at the end of the day? So a highly conditioned athlete who is capable of handling a wide variety of physical challenges. So that is practically the outcome with CrossFit. And the CrossFit became a global movement, solved a major problem. With traditional gym training, for many people was boring. and most people hated it. Doing on treadmills, isolation exercises, machine circuits. But the CrossFit on the other side introduced the competition, the community as well, the challenge not to forget measurement, because you have the result at the end. And the people suddenly had, scores, results, rankings, personal records, team environment, and not to forget the results as the outcome. And humans are naturally competitive, and CrossFit tapped directly into that physiology. Instead of just saying, I'm going to the gym, as in the people like to said, they used to say, I'm going to beat my previous score, and that's a huge difference. Setting the personal records, the motivation with the time increases drastically. The consistency improved, and fitness became much more fun. And this is one of the CrossFit's greatest achievements by far, if you're asking me as well. But many people see that differently. But that's bottom line for me. So the philosophy is of constant variation. So there are many types of workouts, and the CrossFit famous principles, constantly doing this variation in functional movements, perform, of course, at a high intensity. The idea sounds very appealing, and the body has to adapt all the time. And those variations prevent stagnation. So this is one of the important destinations because the bodies are developing, and the variation is very useful. Randomness is not. Every elite athletic development requires, at the end of the day, progressive overload, structure adaptation, long-term planning. The body doesn't just become strong because the workouts are random. The body becomes only stronger because stress is progressively increased across the time, and this is where coaching qualities matters. The good CrossFit programming also includes, excuse me, the planning, progression, recovery management, skill development, because you have to be very skilled in CrossFit. The pure CrossFit programming becomes, only the suffering, and those are not the same things, um, because you have to, possess a very huge spectrum of skill sets. But if you ask me what are the benefits of CrossFit, you can discuss about the strengths. Exceptional work capacity is that comes at first position. CrossFit athletes develop that remarkable conditioning. They can lift, they can run, they can jump, they can row, they can carry loads, they can carry their own body. Be very gymnast oriented as well for extended periods, and this creates incredible working capacity that the most of the people are unable to execute. And then you have the full body athleticism. Unlike some specialization as a specific sport athlete, CrossFit develops many physical capabilities simultaneously, and athletes become very strong, very lean, very coordinated, very explosive. Excuse me. I'm on two cameras right now. I hope that you can hear me. So across multiple domains here. And then we have community. This may be the most underrated factor here. People stay committed because of the culture, because of the cult, because of the tribe. And community drives that adherence, that connectivity. That connectivity drives the results, like any other. So you need to find your tribe. Not to forget the mental toughness. CrossFit, workouts often places the athletes in very uncomfortable situations. So you have to learn to push throughout those discomforts, and you'll develop resilience across the time. So, and while some mental toughness, isn't everything, at the end of the day, it absolutely matters. Then we have the movement diversity. You know, excuse me. The CrossFit exposes athletes to do the Olympic lifting, do some gymnastical stuff, do the sprinting, the rolling, the jumping, running the distance. A broad athletic foundation here, you know. So it requires a lot of time, very specific periodization models, to be very clever with it, with the dosage. And maybe on the other side, the biggest criticism of CrossFit, the reality of it, no training system, of course, is perfect, but CrossFit has, as all of others, their own limitations. this is where I believe, first and foremost, the technique comes under fatigueness very often. Olympic lifting requires precision, and gymnastic also, and when you put your body in a fatigue state, it reduces that precision, and it creates a lot of risk of injury, injury, and that, for example, that snatch performed, fresh look very different from a snatch performed after 20 minutes of maximal effort. Not to forget, the issue is not the exercise. The issue is execution with the time that is put on the plate here. The clock is the biggest enemy, and there is too much generalization. CrossFit creates excellent general athletes, but sports performance often requires specialization. A CrossFit athlete is not automatically, if you say, a better football player, a better sprinter, a better boxer. So sport performance requires only a sport-specific training in that domain. Um, then we have the recovery problems. Many athletes underestimate the recovery load and demands within this sport. High intensity training every day or almost every day eventually are going to create fatigueness, overtraining, reduced performance, the risk of injury. So the body grows during the recovery. We all know that, not during the workouts. But this is, especially when you put it in a very narrow time frame, can be counterproductive. And there is also a skill dilution. So CrossFit requires mastery in many disciplines. So it challenged the obvious. Not many people are able to do the snatching, the cleans, the jerks. Time spans improving one skill reduces the time available for the another. And that elite specialization often wins for many people, but on the other side, it hinders many people. So when it comes to functional fitness for athletes, if you're asking me, should the athletes do the CrossFit? The answer is it depends. The CrossFit can definitely improve the conditioning, as I said, work capacity, general strength, and body composition. However, on the other side, athletes must remember this, or just the general public. The goal is not to win a CrossFit. The goal is to win in their sport. A football player, per se, should train for football. A boxer should train for boxing. A goalkeeper should train as a goalkeeper. So functional training for athletes should be definitely focused on relative strength. Then we have power production, acceleration, deceleration, change of direction, injury prevention. So the closer, the training resembles though the performance demands, the more functional it becomes. And that's going to be it all the time, every day. But what coaches, when it comes to strength and conditioning chases, it's very differently here. Elite performance coaches follow a very different philosophy here. They usually start with needs analysis of their athlete, and all of the questions include, so what is the sport? What is the position? What energy system dominates in this sport? What's the injury risk exists here? So what movement patterns are required? What disbalance has my athlete? And then training is built backwards from performance. And this is highly individualized periodization or training planning. So a goalkeeper and marathon runner requires completely different programs. And this is a true functional training. No trendy exercises, nothing that you see on the social media. No circuit movements, no social media content. Just performance driven programming here. This is what it has to be done throughout the year. But if you want to build your own functional system here, regardless of your goal, I believe that your training should always contain these 5 pillars. Of course, strength, and then we put a lot of in the compound lifting, like squats, deadlifts, presses, pulls, and then we have on the other side carries, power production, so plyometry, everything with jumps. Then we have the ballistic, which shows This is also can be included in the Olympic lift variations. So everything is connected. Also, when it comes to sprinting, this is a must. When it comes to conditioning, you have to include all the three, if you want to say all 5 zone work. You have to do intervals, you have to do circuits, zone 5, aerobic, anaerobic, ATP, creatine, phosphate, you name it. Mobility, flexibility work, joint function, movement quality, recovery protocols in between the sessions. What comes after it? Doing the active athlete management. What is required when it comes to running, when it comes to jumping, when it comes to changing of direction? Where is the lack here? Carrying, as I said, maybe even putting some climbing as well. So these qualities creates a complete human athlete. And this is what I suggest you to do. So this is just my thoughts about the CrossFit, and I like to share it with you. This is I got so many questions in this area that I had to make a short video about this, even doing live because I wanted to finish as soon as I can. And the CrossFit, changed the fitness industry forever. On the other side, you have also Herox workouts. The CrossFit, the only difference between that is that you have with Herox a workload, but the CrossFit on the other side requires a specific skill set that is very difficult, and it changed the fitness industry forever. It's going to be like this, it reminded also the people, that fitness can also be very fun, very competitive, always different, challenging, constantly changing, and very social. For that alone, I think the CrossFit deserves a tremendous respect. But remember this: there is no perfect training system out there. Only the right system for a specific goal at the right time. And functional fitness isn't about specific uh, gear like kettlebell, just barbell, dumbbell, or whatever. And it isn't about balancing on stable surface just during the central nervous system exercises. It's about um, understanding what your body requires for that specific sport. And it's not about copying some influencer on Instagram and doing their workouts. Functional fitness is training that improves the function you care about. And if your goal is health, then train for health. And if your goal is sport performance, then train for sport performance. And if your goal is becoming a complete all-around athlete, CrossFit on the other side may be an excellent option, but the best program is not always the most popular program. The best program is the one that moves you closer to your objective. So that's why you need to have tests and test with purpose, train intelligently, and always remember, fitness is not always surviving throughout the workouts. It's about, becoming more capable in life. And that is what is the cue. So my message for you was that. So thank you for listening. And if you enjoy these short, briefly episodes, share it with a friend, so leave a review, and follow the podcast for more discussions on performance, strength, conditioning, and athletic development, man. I will see you in the next episode. Until the next time, I love you all. Take care. Bye bye.